Welcome everyone to another Buzz Flares interview. Today we're here with Kele Flemming, and thank you again. Much appreciated. You're looking wonderful. You got some rest. You've been a little bit sick lately. That's okay. That happens to everybody. So I wanted to, where do we even start? I mean, you have such a great body of work.
Thank you.
It's just beautiful music. You have a very particular tone and vibrato to your voice that I really enjoy. My favorite stuff that you do is when you double track your vocals. I think when you double track them, I love how it sounds double tracked. Like Turing Test, that you double track your vocals on that. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, in the chorus for sure.
Yeah, I love how your vocals sound like that, because your vibratos are like, they're super, the vocals are all super tight, but the vibratos let them separate slightly. And I love the feeling. It's just like so like full, and but I would love to talk about Microdoses as well, because that's a beautiful song. And your stuff your music to me seems to have a lot of personal attribute and viewpoint, and honesty, just kind of like coming on out, so would you say you're someone that uses music as a way to exhale all of, emotion and thought process? And
as I exhale. Yeah, totally. I think, as an artist, I feel, see, hear, taste everything that's going, smell everything that's going on in the world. And right now the world is not a happy place, so I take all that in, and it comes out in my songs, comes out in my art. And so the answer is yes.
But I wanted to know, like, so for you, when did you, like, how did this all start for you in terms of music? Did you pick up a guitar one day? Has this been going on since you were a kid? When did spark happen?
Basically since I was a kid. I've always been a writer. I mean, you mentioned lyrics, and lyrics are so important to me. So I've always been walking around with little notebooks, writing down ideas or thoughts that occur to me. My dad was a musician. He played guitar, so that probably influenced me to pick up the guitar when I was, how old was I? I think I was 12, and I took my first guitar lessons, and played guitar in junior high school. So that kind of started. And, as soon as I picked up a guitar, I started writing songs. So I think it was just in me to do. And so, I thank my dad for leading me to the guitar, and he bought me my first guitar, which was this 12-string behemoth of a thing that I learned on. It was like, I'm not a very tall or large person, and this guitar was like, have my arm around it and strumming.
Well, it was a 12-string.
It was, that was my first guitar.
Wow, I can't even imagine. What a first guitar. Your dad sounds like really cool. I mean, it's and that makes me happy too, because I'm a guitar playing dad as well. So maybe one day, I mean, I love that. But a 12-string as the first guitar, I mean, even tuning that thing,
I know, it was quite the project.
But if you learn on a behemoth like that, then when you pick up an electric 6-string, it's like, oh wait, this is not that hard.
Totally, you can play anything, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. I love that. And then did that kind of continue on throughout your life? You started writing songs on acoustic, and
definitely. And when I in high school, I was that kid, that folk singer songwriter who was performing their own songs at school concerts, that kind of thing. And once I went to university, I started a band, and I did. I was fronted a band in the 1990s called Hazel Motes. So this was in Vancouver. The indie rock scene was really thriving in those days. So
I remember.
Pretty amazing to be part of it then. So I was in Hazel Motes, and then was always the songwriter, and then became a solo artist after that.
Right. Oh, so you in Hazel Motes, was Hazel Motes like heavier, like rocker, more rocky type sound? Or?
I would say probably similar to what I do now, folk rock. Your stuff, your solo stuff,
it's a blend of things, really. It's not just, it can be, because some people might consider it, like I consider it to be kind of like almost a cross between what would maybe be like almost like a Baroque pop mixed with like a
Yeah,
cinematic contemporary stuff.
love it.
It depends on the song, really.
Yeah, yeah,
And your stuff, like, so like take a song like Microdoses. There's a lot going on in a song like that. It's not just you and a guitar.
yeah.
So, do you work to record a song? Like for that, do you work with a producer? Do you go into a studio? Do you have a home studio that you scratch tracks with, or how does that work?
I don't have a home studio. I mean, I have equipment. I just haven't really started using it yet.
Hmm.
I've been working with an engineer producer in Vancouver named Sheldon Zaharko my last couple of projects. And I love working with Sheldon. And how he works is um, he comes to the practices with me and my band. I have an amazing band of musicians that I play with.
Oh,
I'll mention their names in a couple minutes, but so he records at some great studios in Vancouver. One of them being the Warehouse Studio, which is where I've recorded my last two projects. It's this beautiful, beautiful space in Vancouver's Gastown. It's owned by Brian Adams, and it's like
wow.
amazing. Like the microphones, like I was singing, it's a for Turing test, I was singing through this amazing microphone. It was like, I don't know, this $40,000 microphone that just was like such a treat to sing through, because I could hear the quality that it was capturing, right,
Oh yeah.
of the acoustics. So I work with Sheldon on recording. I usually just, for writing, I'm often on my own here in my little music room, working on stuff. And then I take it to my band. So they're all in Vancouver, because I moved over to Vancouver Island a few years ago to be in Victoria now. So Tony Lee on drums, Matthew Presidente on keyboards, piano, and vocals, and Scott Fletcher on bass. And the three of them are amazing. And yeah, and so they would just have great vibes and like great sync when we get together and play music.
Oh, I love that. So you write a lot of the stuff and you kind of take it to the band.
Yeah, I write all of the stuff. I
Okay,
write
got
all
it.
my
So
own stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you're the songwriter and you take it to the band. The band's like, all right, cool. So yeah, and then with Sheldon, you take it to Sheldon after you guys have kind of worked on it. You get, so the whole band goes over to Sheldon's
Actually, he comes to our rehearsal space actually
to
and
record.
listens. No, just to listen. So as I'm working on the songs with the three guys, Sheldon comes over and just, wants to listen and kind of get into the songs, and he's making notes, and he's like
Wow.
figuring out the beats per minute and all that stuff. And we talk about various things, and he's like, well, yeah, what are you trying to do in this section or in this song? And we talk it through. And yeah, so it's very Kelly driven and also collaborative with,
Right.
because I love what other people bring into something. I want to hear how would you interpret this?
Right.
Like, what would you do with this?
Of course. Well, Sheldon seems like he's very he's very dedicated, because
Oh yeah.
he's coming to the rehearsals and
Yeah.
listening and giving input and talking to you about the songs. I mean, that's incredible. Most
Yeah,
most
he's amazing.
producers don't do that. They wait till you get to the studio and they go, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And then they go, well, what if you change this and that? I mean, that's
Yeah.
really incredible. He sounds incredible.
And how he works, I mean, we basically record live off the floor in
Oh,
this space. It's this amazing space in the Warehouse Studio. It's Studio 2. It's this huge open space of brick and wood, and like, so Maddie and Tony and Scott are all in this big open space. I'm off in this little isolation booth.
right.
But we can all see each other, and yeah, he wants to capture that
Oh,
kind of feel, that live feel.
oh, I love that. That's so
Yeah.
good. I love bands that record that way, because you can feel that energy. Because what
Yeah.
happens is, for me, it's like a synergism thing, you know, like
Yeah.
you get that live energy. It's very hard to capture on record if you don't, do it live. People can be enthusiastic and whatever. I'm not saying that, but when you have a live recording, people are feeding off of those energies back and forth.
Totally.
Even if you're in a booth, it doesn't matter, like they're still in the room, they see you, everyone's feeding off each other. And then you go back, of course, and overdub stuff after you do the live. That's such a good, and is that how Microdoses was done?
Yep. Live off the floor. And Touring Test, it was actually written. I wrote it the weekend we were recording. So we were in the first day, we were the Saturday in the studio, and things were going so well. Like we were really in a groove, and just like we got, I don't know, 3 songs down the first day. And my plan was to do 5 total. And I was like, I feel like we could do another song. And so Maddie said to me, well, go home and write one tonight. So I did. So Touring Test. So then I brought it back the next morning, and then they said, okay, let's hear it. And we just did it. And it was amazing. It just all came together. Because I just had this I didn't even have a guitar at home with me that night, because I took all my guitars to the studio. So I came in here, and I was just doing this little clunky thing on my guitar and singing this melody. And it just all came together within an hour.
You put together. Oh my gosh. See, you're
it's just magic when that happens.
What about the lyrics?
The lyrics I wrote the night before mostly. I finished the 3rd verse in the studio that day as I was singing it. Yeah. What
a flow. You guys must have been on a flow.
Yeah. So special.
So what about performing? You guys play live?
Yeah. I often perform solo or as a duo. Maddie and I have been doing a lot of piano and guitar and voice stuff, and kind of playing on each other's stuff and touring together.
Mm-hmm.
And I play with the full band live sometimes. I mean, we did a big show in Vancouver in November. We opened for Jane Siberry in Vancouver. So that was the full band, and that was so much fun. Yeah. And that was the first time we'd really played those songs together live.
So this is something I would love to know. And I tend to ask this, more often than not. And you can take your time with this. Some people don't even like this question because it's so hard. But throughout your, the course of your musical, life, I should say. If I were to ask you, what do you think your maybe top 5 musical influences of all time would really be? I know. What would you tell me? What do you think? You could take time to think about it, and it could be anything. Maybe like your mom or dad played records when you were a kid, or I don't know. What do you think about that? Give me some influences. Yeah.
If I go back to when I was a kid, my sisters and I had these silly records. They were like K-tel records. So it was like a collection of all the top 40 songs.
Oh.
So I listened to a lot of top 40, kind of music like ABBA and the Jackson 5, and I can't even think of some Motown and stuff like that. So those, I mean, I think you can kind of hear that in my music, because melody is super important to me. Is the kind of how can I explain it? Like communicating a message through melody. I feel like there's a lot of power in that.
Oh yeah.
So that, and then I would say Jane Siberry was a huge influence on my songwriting. Another Canadian singer-songwriter who I just love her work. Patti Smith.
Ooh, Patti Smith.
Good one. As a writer for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to say ABBA, which is kind of funny, right? But just thinking about melody and harmony, just using harmony and melody. or we can count ABBA and the K-tel records as one, maybe. I'd say John Lennon,
Ooh,
big
course.
influence. And not so much the Beatles. The Beatles, yeah, they're the Beatles, the songwriting powerhouses, right? But I wasn't super exposed to the Beatles. I mean, everybody's exposed to the Beatles, especially growing up in like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But John Lennon's solo stuff for sure. I think
Mhm.
the activist and the social lens that he looked through with his writing was a
Yeah.
big influence on me.
Oh yeah.
And just the humanity in his work and the belief in the power of love and the power
Oh
of love
yeah.
to change everything. So
Yeah.
that was a big influence on me.
Before started recording, were you like writing a lot of your own stuff at home and like simply just sitting there with an acoustic writing your own stuff, and then
Yep.
you got into the band, but then you were still writing all that stuff for that band.
Yep.
So during that process, while you were doing all that stuff, was it like you were like, would you write a song and then be like, and then kind of realize maybe this isn't one for the band. Maybe this is just one that I keep for myself. But did that kind of stuff happen? Like,
yeah, I don't know if it was so much that I was thinking I'm going to keep this one for myself, or it
that
was
it wouldn't
more
fit.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that it might not fit, because there's songs. Yeah, I made a list a couple of months ago of all the songs I'd written, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure I forgot some, but I'm looking at the list. It's like, oh yeah, that song's never been recorded. Like, I don't even think I've ever played that live. But that is maybe a good thing, because maybe it's not the greatest song, right? Just because it's a song I wrote
Right.
doesn't mean that it should see the light of day, right? And that's something like, as an artist, you just kind of have to
You deal
be
with.
real about that,
Yeah. You go, okay, then I'm sure but when you explain that, I'm trying to picture it. So is it like you have you're going over all the songs you wrote, you come across a song, you say, oh, we never recorded that. What are you looking at? Are you looking at just lyrics? And if so, when you look at those lyrics, do you hear the melodies already or remember them? Or is it that how it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. Yeah. Cause some people have ideas and they, pick up their phone or they record on something real quick and so they don't forget it. Do you do stuff like that too?
I do now. Yeah. So on my phone, I have tons of little voice memos of stuff that I've recorded walking down the street, or,
Yeah.
in the bath or something.
Yeah. And does stuff just hit you? Like, as a songwriter, do you usually write lyrics first, or is it like you pick up a guitar and you have some chord progressions or a melody hits you and you can't get rid of the melody, or does it work both ways?
It varies. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, it really does. I think I mentioned the little writing books. I don't have one right in front of me. Otherwise I'd hold it up. But the little writing books that I'm constantly writing in those. And so sometimes I'll go back, like if I'm in a songwriting mood, I'll pick up my guitar and I'll go back and leaf through one of those books and look at the thread of ideas going through. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pick a verse from this page, a verse from this page, and then put it
it's
all
like
together.
that.
Sometimes.
Wow.
Or sometimes I sit down and I write a verse, second verse, and here's the chorus.
Right. So there are some pages of the book where it's like, here's the whole song, and then some pages where just a chorus will come to you, or a verse, or you're not even sure if it's a chorus yet or whatever, and then later on you sit down with a guitar and you're like, I'm going to write something with something, and you have your like trusty book and you're like, all right. And then most of the time something will probably come from that.
Yeah.
And then if and when you take, so if and when you take it to the band, you pick up your guitar and go, okay, it goes like this, or do you kind of mouth it to them and explain it?
No, I'll usually pick up my guitar and do a
solo.
I might, a little bit, and then they'll kind of jump in, or I might explain or say, for microdoses, for example, I I think I said, this is not in 4/4 time. I said to Tony, and it's like, I think it's 3/4, but like, and I want, I said, I want it to start kind of small and then become huge at the end. And then I was like, Scott, I want you to open the song. Like, I want the bass to be the only voice at the beginning of the song. And that's something that's actually been, I guess, something I've done with a number of songs, and probably started back in the Hazel Motes days when I was in that band, because the bass player from back then, Wendy Atkinson, played kind of melodic bass, if I can say that. So with Microdoses, I wanted Scott to have almost a counter melody on the bass.
Microdoses. So Microdoses, that Microdoses is the most recent one.
Yes.
It's out. Turing Test was right before that. And then there's a handful of others before the album. And is there anything that you're working on now?
Yeah, well, I do have a bunch of singles that are stacked up that could be released, and a couple of remixes that I just haven't set release dates yet for. Been dealing with death of my parents and elder care, so those will be coming, and I will be probably later this year, recording the rest of an album. So Turing Test and Microdoses were part of the first. I think we recorded 7 songs, so probably be recording maybe 5 more. I have to write them, so I've got about 5 songs. On the go right now.
So are any of them like in the process of being recorded or have been? And by the way, my condolences, and I'm sorry about your parents. Obviously, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And I'm sure they're very proud of all the stuff that you've been doing. So so is it a thing where it's like Microdoses and Turing Test were meant to be part of a bigger project? You're saying, like an album?
Yeah.
Got it. But at any rate, so we covered a lot of great ground. This has been beautiful.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time so much.
Thanks for having me on, please. I love talking to you. I love your questions and your observations about music and just digging into the process. It's so much fun for me.